To discuss this further, we can now go to Gerald Horne, who is an author and historian, someone whose take I wanted to get on this when I first heard this come up. So, Gerald, if these claims made by the Turkish foreign minister prove to be true, this is a remarkable change in Washington's stance. Do you think that the Kurds are getting a raw deal here? I mean, again, how would you comment on this political seesaw that we're getting from America?
Well, if the Kurds are getting a raw deal, this would not be the first time that they have been traduced at the hands of Washington. I think we need to step back, however, and look at the larger picture. It's been clear for some time now that relations between Ankara and Washington are heading downward. That is to say that President Erdogan and President Trump are clearly not getting along. Keep in mind that there is an ongoing legal procedure in New York City that involves one of President Erdogan's closest confederates. Keep in mind as well that Mr. Erdogan has also asked for the extradition from the United States of his chief political opponent, Fethullah Gulen, who lives in comfort in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. Washington so far has balked. So this phone call that took place today between President Erdogan and Mr. Trump was an attempt to patch up this troubled relationship. It's unclear to me, however, if that effort will succeed.
Now, clearly Erdogan is trying to establish Turkey as an independent regional power, but he is also always criticizing Washington's support for the YPG fighters in Syria. If the Americans really yield to Ankara's demands, which force do you think could play the role of a new partner for Washington on the ground?
Well, that's the $64 question. Obviously, what's happening in Syria involves basically a failure of U.S. foreign policy. What I mean is that Washington had allied with the Saudis in terms of backing religious zealots. However, with the intervention of Russia and Iran and Hezbollah of Lebanon, these forces defeated the so-called Islamic State, defeated the religious zealots, and therefore, U.S. policy is now scrambling to try to find an alternative to that failed policy. There was a lot of hand-wringing in Washington yesterday about the meeting in Sochi between the presidents of Iran and Turkey and Russia. And I dare say that that meeting, which obviously led to a gigantic step forward in terms of resolving the Syrian crisis, led to this phone call today from Mr. Trump to President Erdogan.
So what can we expect to hear from the Kurds, if anything? I mean, they're not going to take this lightly, are they?
The Kurds are in a corner. As you know, in so-called Iraqi Kurdistan, they had a referendum on independence that led to a 90% plus verdict in favor of independence by those voting. However, Baghdad, the central government in Iraq, reacted very negatively to this, and it does not seem as if Kurdistan will be moving towards independence. Likewise, Ankara, President Erdogan, reacted very badly to this referendum as well. And once again, Washington also did not support this referendum. So with this latest news coming out of this phone call today, it seems as if the Kurds are really over a barrel.
All right, Gerald Horne, author and historian, thanks for being with us here on RT International. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with us and interesting to hear your thoughts.